talk show. Today I have 3 students here from Alvernia. Going to talk about their Stroke Perspective project. We have Sienna, Heather, and Jenna. I'm going to ask them a few questions. So what challenges did you guys experience with this project?
Definitely for me, one of the biggest challenges was getting ready for bed at night, like brushing my teeth. It was really hard because I am left-hand dominant, so when I had a left hemi, it was really difficult for me to use my right hand because I'm not used to it, and it just really took me out of my routine. And also just like taking my clothes off and putting my pajamas on at night was really difficult.
I had a really hard time showering and doing dishes. Those are my 2 biggest things I had trouble with, just because I feel like those were like pretty complex, and I just kept wanting to use my other hand to help with that. This is very difficult.
And I think cooking food was probably one of my biggest challenges. Once again, I'm also left-hand dominant, so only having my right hand when my left was restrained was kind of difficult, especially opening cans and bottles. Also just kind of getting out of bed. I didn't have that momentum kind of rolling me over and pushing up from my left hand or my right hand, depending which one was restrained at that day.
Off to neuro.
So I think we all can agree that basically all our basic ADLs, cooking, getting dressed in the morning, all that stuff, hygiene is what we struggled with.
The natural things.
Yeah, and like trying to restrain yourself from
Yep.
using that arm. So how did you conquer these challenges? Who wants to start?
I'll start. So just actually thinking about the process more than, okay, I need to get out of bed, go to the shower. I actually had to like break down the task and really focus in on what I was doing more so than let's just go do it. That was my biggest thing.
Yeah, for me, it took a lot of extra time that I wasn't planning on, so I noticed that it really just took longer than I normally take to do things.
Definitely, like going off what Jenna said, like breaking down the task, it wasn't as fluid of a motion, so you really had to learn how to adapt in order to be able to accomplish whatever task you were doing and just be able to do it, and you were kind of just whatever you had to do in the end.
You just really have to concentrate. Got it. And so, how did this make you feel, like trying to do all this stuff when your arms were strained?
Very frustrated.
I think we can all agree we were very frustrated.
I do agree with that, yes, for sure.
Too much time to do small tasks.
Yeah. All right.
We're used to like rushing and stuff around a lot of the time, and like to do things in a hurry, especially as students and everything, and having to slow down our normal pace was definitely aggravating. You guys would probably agree.
Right with you.
Yeah.
So now, as students and future PTs, what insight did you gain from this project?
Well, now that we have like a patient's perspective, we understand that some things might be very frustrating for them. Some things we might have to break down further than we normally would. Just kind of going along those lines.
It definitely gave us perspective, like to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. So like when we're doing something as simple as like just supine to sideline with a patient, realizing like this could be maybe the hardest task for them, and even though it may come so easy to us, like this is really challenging for them, and just being really compassionate about this and encouraging them and not letting them let their frustrations get in their way of accomplishing any kind of goal they want to meet.
Kind of off of Sienna, like we were able to go back to our normal function, and I think we need to realize how frustrated these patients are. So the only way that they can gain any improvement is off of our physical therapy. So we need to take it slow with them, that they might not gain all their function back where we eventually could after those 2 hours.
And two, you kind of realize that, like us, we go about our day like not even realizing it, and then one day these people don't have that
Their
anymore.
lives just change.
So yeah, it's kind of like the sympathizing with them too.
Okay.
So then moving on with that, how has this experience changed how you will approach your patients with stroke and your interventions with them?
So like, I don't know about you guys, but I haven't had much experience treating patients with stroke, but I think this will take into perspective that our treatments mean the world to these patients, that the only way that, like I said before, that they're going to gain this function back is through our treatments. So if we're providing like faulty treatments, these patients are going to end up back in the hospital.
Yeah, I agree with that. As I also don't have much experience, it gives me a good insight onto like what to do in the future that will be the most helpful for these patients trying to gain some like normalcy back into their life.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said, and just
All right, and with that, we will be right back with the last half of this segment. Okay, and welcome back. So we're going to finally wrap this up. Last question, how does this perspective change how you might educate their families going forward?
I think one important thing to tell the family is not to get frustrated when their loved ones maybe don't want their help, because this is just a really hard time and something they're going through, and no one wants their independence taken away from them. So we have to be conscientious of letting our family members still have that freedom.
I agree with that. And also letting them know that they might have to be a little more involved if the patient actually will accept their help, just to kind of help them get through some of the troubles that they might be having.
I think another thing, like, kind of educate the families on there are support groups out there that other people are going through this and they're not alone. And kind of going off what Heather and Sienna said, that they need to take the time as well to be part of their treatment program, because eventually when the patient does need help in the beginning, these family members also have to be involved, and knowing like the progression that can be possibly made and when to back off and when to help more will also be beneficial to the families.
Any other comments?
Overall, I think it was a very good experience to be able to put yourself in another person's shoes, as well as using your dominant and non-dominant side. So seeing kind of the difference between how we normally would do things and how much it really changes someone's life.
I think it was a great project. It definitely gained a lot of insight on it. I just think we know also that when a patient does suffer a stroke, they have all these emotion ties to the stroke, and that we also need to realize that the stroke can cause more than just impairments, like functional.
Yeah, it just overall really opened our eyes as future physical therapists into the just everyday simple challenges that our patients could be facing that we may not always be aware of when they're walking into the clinic.
And I know too from personal experience, I took the project a little too far, but you were talking about just like the frustration aspect. I mean, I didn't have movement of my dominant arm for 4 or 5 days, and I don't really remember much, but I know how scary it was when I initially realized that I didn't have any movement in my right arm. And kind of too, I was telling them about when I first arrived at the hospital, like I didn't realize my arm was pinned behind my back, like behind my purse, because I had nothing there. So like trying to adjust with that and trying to get over it too. Like now, even a year later, I still have residual weakness in my hand. So it's kind of scary, and it's kind of something you have to just keep adjusting to. And that's about it. Anything else?
Thank you for sharing your experience.
Thank you for sharing your experience.